Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. It's Colin, and today we're going to be doing a review of the brand new Sleigh Bells album, Bunky, Becky, Birthday Boy. Now, try saying that name 5 times fast. So, this is the 6th full length LP from Brooklyn based noise pop duo Sleigh Bells. And I will be honest, this is the first album of theirs I've listened to in full since their debut, Treats. Now, that poses the question, why did I stop listening to Sleigh Bells? And I don't think I have a really good answer for that question. They're not like someone that I disliked. I mean, I loved Treats a lot. I think it's a fantastic album. I played it a lot when it first came out. But I think I just kind of fell off of their radar, or they fell off of my radar a little bit. I think that like there was just so much other stuff I was listening to at that time that by the time their sophomore release came out, I just like wasn't on the lookout for it. And so here we are 15 years later, and I'm finally diving back into Sleigh Bells. And clearly I've missed some stuff between Treats and now, because the sounds we're hearing on Bunky, Becky, Birthday Boy, while definitely have some snippets of what I loved about them on Treats, definitely a lot different stylistically. So, with that being said, let's talk about the songs themselves. Real quick though, before we do that, if you guys could please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you like this video. All that stuff helps me out a lot. Also, consider going and checking out my Patreon. Link for that is in the description. I've got some exclusive videos, some perks you can request a video, and I hope to have some more exclusive stuff coming out soon. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the track list. So the album opens up with the first single I heard. I don't think it was the first single they released. I think that was actually the second track, Let's Start a Band. But the first song in Bunky Pop, that was the first song that I heard off of this album. And the YouTube algorithm just kind of threw it at me. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know there was new Sleigh Bells coming out. Watched the music video for it and was like, oh my God, I absolutely love this. This still holds true. I love this song a ton. It's weird, it's quirky. It starts off with this like wild mix of like pop punk and hyper pop and a little bit of electro pop as well, kind of all thrown together. The chorus is super catchy. The guitars are a little crunchy. Like the drums kind of kick in and out of more just like standard melody driven and a little bit more intense and heavy. It's got a super catchy hook. The chorus is awesome. Definitely a little bubbly in certain parts, and then like again like heavier in others. Even has like some straight up like double bass, like almost reminiscent of like a blast beat in certain parts. But yeah, cool way to open the album, and definitely set my expectations probably a little bit higher than they should have been. But then we get into Let's Start a Band, which I love just as much. I think this is another really cool, really innovative song. It starts off with almost like a hard rock sort of glam metal, like heavy metal sort of vibe to it as far as the instrumentation goes, before settling into a more sort of just like bubbly synth pop, almost like bit pop at certain points, with like some video game sounds. Goes in and out of that pretty well. Definitely brings in some more of like the pop punk vibes. And I think the vocal performance here from Alexis is just absolutely killer. You even get some like hip hop moments as far as the beat goes. And yeah, it's absolutely chaotic, but it works super well. And then we get into Life Was Real. And this one is a bit more straightforward. It's a little bit less chaotic than the previous two songs. Kind of just some straight up power pop rock. With like a little bit of synth parts thrown in. Again, it's catchy as well. I think it's well done, well written. It is a fairly shorter track, but I think it works super well, especially when you get into like some of the more synth pop leaning aspects of it. I think it blends really well with the kind of like power pop, pop punk that they've been doing up until this point. From there, we get into Roxette Rick, which is it starts off with this really sort of like glitchy electro intro that then gets into a more kind of like standardized pop rock, pop punk, which again is a little reminiscent of the song before, and I think that's foreshadowing kind of what's about to come. There are moments towards the end where the guitars get a little bit harder and a little bit more just like straight up rock oriented. And then it's got this kind of like glitchy electro outro. But then we get into This Summer. And This Summer starts off almost the exact same way with kind of like a glitchy electro intro before settling into a fairly like standard and straightforward power pop rock track. And doesn't really do much to set itself apart from Roxette Rick. It just, I don't know. I feel like at this point, they'd kind of done the same thing on a few of the songs up until this point. Not necessarily that they sound exactly the same, but they've got a lot of the same themes and like song structures and a lot of the same tones. And I'm getting a little desensitized to it by this point, which then goes into Can I Scream? And again, kind of my exact same thoughts on this one. It's pretty straightforward, like power pop rock with some like electro pop leanings. Again, it's not a bad song. Like all these are fairly good, catchy songs. I think Alexis's vocals are really good, even if though they're like a bit more straightforward and melodic than some of like the chaoticness of what she did on Treats. And again, there's 4 albums in between Treats and this album that I did not listen to. So this could have been a natural progression for them. It just was very jarring for me coming in after 15 years of not really listening to this band. And then we get into Badly. And Badly, more so than anything else, definitely starts off with kind of like a heavy metal, glam metal intro, but it quickly settles back into a more like straightforward pop punk song. But this one does at least feel a little stylistically different from the other 2 songs. Not enough to like reinvigorate my interest in the album, but still enough that I don't feel like we're just getting the same song 4 times in a row. Which again, I don't necessarily think they sound the same. They just like they use a lot of the same structure in all of them and a lot of the same tones and sounds, and it's just there's not much differentiation between like the previous 3 songs up until like this one. This one does again feel a little bit different, but it's still kind of heading in the same direction. But it is super catchy, and I did really enjoy listening to this one. Then we get into Blasted Shadow. Blasted Shadow is probably my least favorite song on the entire album. This one straight up feels just like the most just straightforward, bland song that they've done up until this point. It honestly feels like just straightforward, like pop, like barely even pop rock. It sounds like almost every other like female pop artist out there right now, which all kind of just sound like bad Taylor Swift covers. And I don't even like Taylor Swift, so yeah, this song does absolutely nothing for me, and I think it could have been left off the album. But then they would have had an even shorter album than they currently do, which would probably not have pleased a lot of people. But then we get into Real Special Cool Thing. And besides the fact that I do not like the name of this song, it's actually fairly catchy. And like, even though it has a lot of the same elements as like the middle of this album, where it's like a little bit of electro pop, a little glitchy, the guitars kind of come in, catchy chorus, but nothing like really kind of deviating from the standard of what I've heard from at least like those first couple of songs. Again, none of these songs are bad except for like maybe the previous track in Blasted Shadow. But again, there's nothing like super exciting about it. And like just the core like middle chunk of this album, it just blends together in a way that's just like not super interesting. But luckily, there is a little bit of a redemption arc with the last couple of songs. So that starts off with High Someday, and I actually like this song a lot, even though it's, again, like not breaking the mold of what we've really gotten up until this point on the album. For some reason, this one does resonate with me a little bit more. It's got almost a little bit more of like an 80s synth pop drive, and like a little bit of an arena rock feel as well. The vocals here, I get like almost soft Kate Bush vibes. And I think it is super, super catchy. And then towards like the second half of the song, it really kind of turns it up to 11. We get some legitimate blast beats. The guitars get a little crunchy and a little bit harder again. And it does feel like it's getting back to some of the stuff that I really, really enjoyed on the very like first part of this album. And then we get into the final song of Pulse Drips Quiet. And this is probably my 3rd favorite song after the opening 2. It's got a little bit of a softer, more almost kind of like dream pop intro, but then it like kicks into a more like rock driven chorus, which is not like drastically different than what they've done up to this point, but it's more of that kind of dichotomy between the two of like going between the airy sort of floaty dreamlike verses to like the more hard-hitting rock chorus. This one does also feel stylistically fairly close to like the sleigh bells that I know, which again is a very like personal criticism, but or not necessarily criticism, but like personal comment. But I did enjoy that aspect of it. So yeah, I think this album is a really good example of like, if you like a band, don't skip albums in their discography, because if you come in 15 years later, they may not sound like the same band. And that's okay. Bands evolve, they change over time. And I'm definitely going to go back and do myself the service of listening to their other 4 albums. And who knows, maybe my opinion of this will change by then. I don't think it will. On 3 listens through, I went from like super high, loving the first few tracks, to like kind of mid, to like getting a little bit below mid, to like back up again. So all of that said and done, I'm going to give this album a B minus for me personally. I think that there's going to be a lot of people out there that really do like this album, but one of the things that really drew me to Sleigh Bells in the first place was like the chaotic nature of their sound and how easily they were able to like go back and forth between genres, and not just like on a song, but like between song and song. And so to have the core like middle of this album sound very similar to itself, like song after song after song, takes some points away from me. That being said, I think it's very well done. I think the instrumentation is well produced. I think it's well mixed. I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that really enjoy this album. It's just not doing it for me that much today. That being said, first couple songs and the last couple probably going to be going on some playlists, and we'll definitely get some rotation throughout the year. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, if you could please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and go check out my Patreon. All that stuff helps me out a lot. And as always, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.